Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons breakdown video with myself and Mike today. This is a player that's been, I feel like, linked with us every single summer. He's been linked away with moves every single summer for about the past 5 years. That is Jonathan David of Lille. And now it's coming out again from the Independent that West Ham are among the clubs interested in signing the striker. And he could be available for a fee of around £25 million this summer. Now, a lot of teams are interested in him. I think yesterday it was announced that Chelsea are pushing quite hard on trying to get a deal to make a deal happen. But Jonathan David, again, it's a player we've been linked with so many times, Mike. So just as an overview for people watching, still only 24, Canadian striker, around 5'11". His contract expires next summer. And as we said there, estimated value of 30 million euros or around 25 million pounds English money. And yeah, he's right footed. So is what I think you mentioned it to me before, Mike, but it's now the McDonald's Liga. So
Yeah.
what do we make of Jonathan David's time so far in the McDonald's Liga?
He's been hugely successful. Bearing in mind, when he was playing in Belgium, he was playing as a right winger, attacking midfielder. That was where he was playing. Since he's gone to Lille, Fonseca has transformed him into a centre forward. Played quite a bit. Primarily used to play mainly in the front two. That used to be kind of how they played. But he's developed his game in which to operate as a single striker. He's been incredible for him, really. Banging in 20 goals pretty much every season. Last year, he got 19 after a tricky start and a slow start.
Yeah.
He's there's no other word for it. He's been absolutely fantastic for him. And the reason why his value has always been so high is because, quite frankly, they've had players that they've been able to sell really well, like Pepe. They sold for 75 million to Arsenal, who after an incredible goal scoring season. Osimhen, who is at Napoli, was another striker that they had that they sold for incredible money. So they have a habit of buying goal scorers and then selling them for good money. But this is probably the one player that teams haven't taken the leap on. And they've, again, well within their rights to be hard-asked on the value, to which is something that we haven't bothered to do now. And now we're in a position where, because we didn't maybe push the boat out and really go for him, we're now in a position where, we are facing the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, and a whole other host of clubs from across the Europe's elite, which to get them. So we are probably the smallest pup at the bowl, trying to get a nibble. But again, it's maybe we could offer him the best option in terms of gameplay. Probably Chelsea, the only other club I would probably suggest are the ones that would give him the most football, bar ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. I think you kind of touched it there. He's a goal scorer, isn't he? That's what Lille have produced, as you mentioned there, over the years, and it's just what we need. We just need a goal scorer. Obviously, they need to kind of fit how we play, and fit into the system of Lopetegui, which we'll talk about in a bit. But as you mentioned there, 19 goals last season, 24 the year before that, 15 the year before that. So he's consistently scoring, producing a high output of goals, which is something we haven't had in a striker for a very long time. And as you mentioned before, he did also operate as kind of, as a kind of a second striker or playing as a two. Started off as kind of an attacking midfielder. So he has transitioned into that role. But I think this season, after that slow start, like you mentioned, he's found some fantastic form. And I think it's a player, as you mentioned, we've been linked with him for a long time. When we were looking at it, I had tweets from 2022 about him.
Yeah.
So he's someone that's been around the block from West Ham rumor point of view. So it'd be interesting if we have left it too late, because as you mentioned, there are now big clubs kind of circling around to try and make this happen with the fact that he's only got 1 year left on his contract and is probably available for around 25 million. So in terms of just looking at his shooting stats, Mike, just give us a kind of a small overview of why he's one of the more clinical strikers in Europe.
Yeah, well, you just need to look at the number of shots he gets in a game. That's actually quite low. But then when you see actually how many of the shots that he gets on target, how many and how the range in which they are, in the shots to goal ratio, again, he's incredibly high from the percentile point of view. Because the reason is he takes up incredibly good positions on the pitch in which to get those opportunities. He is deadly in front of goal. He's very proficient with his shooting. It's something that he's really kind of developed as well. And he's got 19 in the league as well as 3 in the Conference League this season. And just part of that is the fact that he's able to take up these intelligent positions in the area where he's able to then just, arguably in many cases, just slot the ball away. He also does take penalties. So I think we need to be clear on that. It does take penalties as well.
It's also a positive, right?
But, it is a positive because, let's be honest, Harry Kane is one of the best strikers and one of the finishers in the world when, the majority and quite a large proportion of his goals, say, for England as well, have been from the penalty spot.
Yeah.
So you don't really, unless you're being pedantic, really go, oh, well, they're mainly penalties. So, it's a one-on-one or it's a him against the goalkeeper with him with the higher, with a 75% chance of goal scoring. It's almost irrelevant because at the end of the day, you've still got to put them away. And he does that by and large, which is obviously, as I say, resulted in 19 goals in the league, 3 goals out of 8 in 8 games in the Conference League.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, and it doesn't matter where the ball is getting tucked away from, as long as your striker is doing what you're paying him to do, which is to score goals. And that's what Jonathan David does.
I also like it when a striker's got that confidence, or arrogance to take penalties, and back themselves to score because, a lot of players kind of shy away from that, even if they are good goal scorers or are good strikers. And, it would be nice to have someone that is your kind of main man in striker and also takes the penalties, is also trying to score at every opportunity. And, as well as the goal scoring, Mike, he's got some, pretty good contribution in the match as well. So in terms of kind of looking at the possession stats and his passing, talk to me through these statistics.
Yeah, so this kind of gives a good view of not only what David is capable of, but also in kind of how Lille play. Because Lille are heavily possession-based. They allow him almost a free role in that kind of front kind of line that they play, and he tends to drop in to receive the ball. But again, you can see in terms of how many passes are completed. I know it doesn't look like many because it's like 18 passes completed in a game, and and only 22 being passed. But when you consider that he's making just 22 passes, that puts him just above average. It does kind of show how little strikers tend to be involved.
Yeah.
But what he does like to do, he likes to come short, receive the ball, kind of link play in that way. So he tries not to stay on the centre back as such, because he isn't as strong as other maybe centre forwards. So he's not going to look to kind of hold off a centre back or two who are towering over him. He's going to look to use his intelligence to first go one way and then come short. So, look to kind of a movement in behind. Apologies for dropping that. Kind of go in behind and then to drop short to receive the ball and then kind of link play that way. And, by dropping into those little pockets, he's then able to kind of spread play as well. Those medium to long passes are more him dropping into a pocket where he's then looking to kind of spread play out and so on. And as you can see, the passes final third, the area, that's because, again, he's looking to consistently take those intelligent positions between the lines where it's difficult for a centre back to mark him, because if they come out, then they're going to leave a space. And again, it's then awkward as a midfielder, then either has to drop into mark him, which again creates a space for someone else. So
yeah,
his overall play, out of possession as such, whilst kind of being the team are in possession, is very intelligent because he creates spaces, and it can be a similar impact to what we see, say, with Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa. That player that occasionally comes short, but also is very happy to go in behind, and he's able to link play because they make those smart movements of, I'm going to go, but then drops, and then link play.
Do you think this is the type of kind of profile that we should be going after for Lopetegui? Because we've been linked with quite a few strikers, the likes of En-Nesyri, who are maybe a little bit more physical, someone to kind of play around. Whereas David, like you mentioned, is someone that's going to drop in and going to kind of be part of that progression and look to be involved in that build up. And, as we kind of get these stats back up, when you're looking at kind of the take-ons and, the carries, he will carry the ball, but he's not someone that's going to try and take people on as much as, other strikers may be looking to do. And he's someone that wants to be involved. But again, with the likes of Kudus and Bowen, buzzing around him, he's slightly different to an En-Nesyri. So what type of, do you think he is a kind of Lopetegui style striker? Is it the one you would be going for?
Yeah, I think it would work. I think, again, if we talk, mention about ball carries, he also gives you it allows you to give you a player that you can feed the ball into a channel, and he's going to bring you up the pitch. So when you're in games where maybe you need to sit a bit deeper and you need to then have a player that you can entrust to bring the ball forward, you're going to have your centre forward who can do that. You then have maybe the likes of Kudus in and around him, and Bowen, who also look to carry as well. So by doing that, something that we've mentioned consistently is our lack of ball carriers, and that has harmed us massively in midfield, because we play it into a striker, it gets to a midfielder, and then they have to look for a pass, because then you don't, for lack of a better term, they don't have the ability in which to carry the ball over a distance and to kind of break a defensive line through a ball carry. It's very rare that we see that. But to have, a an attacker that can drop into a pocket and then turn and then go at the defense also means that defense then has to start dropping. They have, a couple of options: either to drop off him, and you've got to remember he's so quick that if you go near him and he beats you, then he's got a bigger space in which to attack. And then we've got the likes of Kudus who could be beside him. So if he's able to beat you, and then you've got a space for, let's say, Kudus. If you look at, for an example, the goal against Man United, where he played it into Paqueta and he lays it on to Kudus, and he's just able to burst into space.
Yeah,
has that same kind of element. That kind of goal happened so much for Lille over the years with Jonathan David, whether when he was in a 2 or in a 1, because he had inverted wingers that would come in and support him, and then they would play those short little passes, and then they would burst into space. Because they had that pace, they was able to exploit the opposition for, I guess, stepping out of position when what they're trying to do is pressure the ball and trying to win it back quickly. It gives you that opportunity that if you're able to have players that can get together in close proximity and play these quick 1-2s, or are able to then turn and burn into any kind of space that's on offer, it makes it really difficult for the opposition, because then all of a sudden the conversation is, well, how high do we step up and how much do we risk? Because a long ball all of a sudden becomes far more tricky. And he is quicker than Antonio, and also he has had less injuries. And if you've got Kudus as well, that you can tell him to go centrally and tell him to push a bit higher up, all of a sudden you've got two absolutely electric players that you are then saying to any team who come play high, say you're going to take a risk. If you're coming to us to play high, you're taking a risk.
I think as well, as you mentioned before, he played in a pair a lot. He played, and having kind of Kudus was as that kind of number 10 behind David. They're almost interchangeable players. You can have David drop off, Kudus kind of making that run in behind, like you mentioned, or vice versa, and it just gives you that flexibility as well. And aside from the offensive side of his game, he's also got pretty impressive defensive stats as well.
Yeah, he will work for you as a striker. And again, I think that comes from being a midfielder, starting off as a right winger and kind of moving centrally to an attacking midfield, and then obviously into a striker. And also, when we talked about Fonseca's team is about trying to win the ball back quickly, using the defensive actions as an attacking action, essentially, because you are looking to win the ball back. Obviously, if you don't win it back quickly, then you get back into shape. That's an intelligent team, that's an intelligent manager, and that's what Fonseca has done. That's also kind of how really Lopetegui is you press quickly, you press high. However, if they beat the press, then you get into an organized, contained kind of system. And I think Jonathan David will suit that, because he will look to continually press, and we've seen with the likes of Kudus, he will press, Bowen will press. And something that we've bemoaned under Moyes is that lack of ability to pressure, to have the sustained pressure. And Jonathan David is coming from a system that does look to try and sustain some level of pressure and look to play a bit, kind of further ahead.
Yeah.
But also understands that if that pressure doesn't work, that press, then you get into a shape, and then you look to work as a team to stifle the opposition, and then look to try and regain and then transition quickly. And I think that would suit probably what Lopetegui is looking at, if we go by, say, his Sevilla team more than maybe his Wolves kind of team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this would be a fantastic sign, and I think as well for 25 million, it's it's a very good market value right now. So if it was to happen, Mike, 25 million-ish, 25 to 30 million comes in this summer, what are you rating that out of 10 as a transfer?
It's a 9 for me. If we can get that deal, that means we've beat some serious competition. Yeah. And at 25 million pounds, that is an absolute snip. They paid, I think, 25 million euros for him at the time when they called, I think, from Ghent, they got him from. They basically will make zero profit on that. But that's because he's down to his last year of his contract, and he's been, as much as I hate it when players contracts go to that, you also have to say the player's been smart. If he wants to get out and hasn't been able to get out previously because of his value so high, then this is the only route I think for players to take, into wind their contract down to the final year and then go out on a lesser fee. So I think he's been smart and strategic in how he's used his contract with Lille. And I think if we can get him for £25 million, then I think we're absolutely laughing. That's less than what Ollie Watkins cost Aston Villa, and I think he could have a similar impact on a club like us than say Ollie Watkins has had for Aston Villa.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this would be a fantastic signing. It's going to be difficult as well. You know, as we mentioned, the likes of Chelsea now are pushing pretty hard on the signing. So I guess it comes down to how much we want to act on this kind of transfer now, and whether this comes more of concrete interest rather than, you know, just being on the short list of players that we have about 1,000 of this summer. So yeah, let us know in the comments what you think about Jonathan David. Would you like to see him at West Ham this summer? If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And Mike, until the next one, come on, you Irons.